For 7 years, Jae-won, a successful and wealthy businesswoman, has been stalked and harassed by an unknown person. There have been multiple threats and even attempts on her life. What once seemed like isolated incidents are now forming a pattern, and as she begins connecting the dots, the clues disturbingly point toward the people closest to her. One day, Jae-won witnesses something that deeply unsettles her. She sees her husband spending time with their daughter and her best friend. The three of them look unusually intimate, almost like a complete and happy family without her. The scene lingers in her mind. The warmth between them feels natural, too natural. Although emotionally shaken, Jae-won forces herself to remain composed. As a business leader, she cannot afford to fall apart. She returns to the office, pauses outside the conference room to steady her breathing, and then walks in with a calm smile. During negotiations with business partners, she performs flawlessly. But the moment she leaves the meeting, the mask slips. Her legs weaken. She steps outside the building, crouches down, and struggles to catch her breath. She recognizes the feeling, the anxiety, the rising panic. She has experienced this before. That night, she decides to test her husband. During casual conversation, she deliberately brings up a female friend who is getting divorced because of her husband's infidelity. She mentions that the couple's planned gathering has now been canceled. Her tone is light, almost indifferent, but she is watching him carefully. Her husband appears flustered. His response feels unnatural. He asks how the woman is coping now, his voice slightly strained. It is subtle, but to Jae-won, it is enough. She thought she understood her husband completely, but in that moment, his reaction feels like confirmation of guilt. Later, she casually asks her daughter about the day's outing. The child innocently says she went out with her father to see friends. Even though the earlier gathering was supposedly canceled, the explanation feels suspicious. Still, Jae-won struggles between trusting her daughter's words and trusting what she saw with her own eyes. Instead of confronting him directly, she takes action quietly. She installs hidden surveillance cameras in the living room. Without consulting her husband, she sends their daughter to a children's camp and arranges for her to study from home afterward rather than attend kindergarten. She convinces herself it is for protection, but it is also control. Her anger toward her husband continues to grow. When she returns to work and encounters her best friend, she no longer hides her coldness. She does not greet her warmly. Sensing the shift, the best friend drops her gentle act. She accuses Jae-won of being hypocritical, of keeping her close only to highlight her own success. Jae-won's hands tremble as she suppresses her anger. She admits that she once pitied her and wanted to help her, but that was based on the belief that they were true friends. If trust is gone, then so is the friendship. The confrontation ends bitterly. Soon after, Jae-won receives a call from the insurance agent investigating her mother's death. He has obtained hospital records. According to his findings, the claim that her mother accidentally consumed pesticide multiple times does not hold up medically. Repeated accidents of that nature are extremely unlikely. There are only two plausible explanations: suicide or murder. Jae-won struggles to accept the possibility that her stepfather could have killed her mother. Despite her mother's coldness throughout her childhood, her stepfather was the one who showed her warmth and care. The idea that he might have malicious intent feels impossible. Determined to hear the truth directly, she visits him in the countryside. Her stepfather confesses that her mother had a severe gambling addiction. Whenever she needed money, she would threaten him by drinking pesticide. Multiple times, he gave her his savings and even borrowed money to cover her debts. He then reveals something troubling. It was Jae-won's husband who informed him about the life insurance payout after her mother's death. The insurance money allowed him to pay off debts and purchase an apartment for retirement. Jae-won accepts his explanation without much doubt. Instead, her suspicion shifts toward her husband. The possibility that he might have had ulterior motives fills her with resentment. What she does not know is that her stepfather concealed part of the truth. When her mother lay dying from pesticide poisoning, her internal organs deteriorating, He stood beside her and chose not to intervene. After leaving the countryside, Jae-won drives back toward the city. Suddenly, her brakes fail. Panic surges through her body as she desperately avoids oncoming vehicles. She grips the steering wheel tightly, fighting to maintain control. At the critical moment, Director Yoon arrives. Realizing her car cannot stop, he uses his own vehicle to block hers, forcing it to halt near the riverbank. Miraculously, neither of them is seriously injured. Still shaken, Jae-won questions how he appeared at precisely the right time. Director Yoon says that once he completes his investigation, he will explain everything. Although she is grateful, she cannot fully trust him, especially since he previously lied about his entry records. At this point, Jae-won no longer knows whom she can trust. She returns home and sits alone in the dark living room, feeling lost. Unbeknownst to her, Director Yoon had repaired a damaged surveillance device in her office. The recovered footage reveals that the person who broke into the company and attempted to harm her was Jae-won from the design team. When Director Yoon tries to confront him, he discovers that Baek has traveled to the countryside, the same location where Jae-won had just visited her stepfather. Fearing for her safety, Director Yoon rushes there, which leads to the car rescue incident. Later, Director Yoon locates Jae-won's apartment building, only to find an ambulance outside. Baek has fallen from the rooftop. At the hospital, Baek remains in critical condition. A nurse hands Director Yoon his belongings. Suddenly, Baek's phone rings. The caller is Jae-won's husband. On the day of Jae-won's press conference, she appears exhausted. Earlier, she had received another anonymous message, including a photo from 7 years ago, asking whether she remembered what happened back then. The message shakes her confidence. She begins doubting herself. Has she become paranoid? Is she imagining connections where none exist? Her headaches return. Refusing medication, she throws away her pills and spends the entire night painting, releasing her emotions onto the canvas. Before the conference, her hands tremble uncontrollably. Director Yoon notices her unstable condition and prevents her from going on stage, assigning manager Pyo instead. Jae-won lashes out at him. His knowledge of her medical condition alarms her. How could he know something so private? He reveals that he once saw her best friend checking into a hotel with a man who looked exactly like her husband, dressed differently, without glasses. When confronted, the best friend denied it. Days later, her neighbor recounts seeing her husband acting strangely and driving a different car. Shortly afterward, her husband appears at her office. But at the same time, her live surveillance feed shows him at home playing with their daughter. Terrified, she rushes home. Her daughter is safe. Her husband claims he came to the office because she messaged him. She never sent such a message. Now she suspects a twin brother. Her husband becomes agitated at the mention of him. He claims they lost contact after their parents divorced. To him, only Jae-won and their daughter matter. Unconvinced, she investigates on her own. The registered residence shows no activity since 2016. Hospital records eventually reveal the shocking truth. The twin brother died a year ago, and her husband attended the funeral. Once again, he has lied. Determined to expose the truth, Jae-won arranges a dinner with her husband and her best friend's family. Before the dinner, she realizes something crucial. The surveillance footage showing her husband at home was not recent. In the video, her daughter's dress had 2 bows, but one had recently fallen off. The footage had been fabricated. At dinner, tension fills the room. Jae-won subtly confronts them. The chairman recalls seeing her husband near his office before. Her husband denies it. Finally, Jae-won boldly states that her husband and best friend have been involved for a long time. The room falls silent. She then pretends it was a joke, mentioning that her best friend already has a boyfriend. But the reactions have already betrayed them. The best friend leaves angrily. Back home, her husband's phone keeps receiving messages. He claims a friend urgently wants to meet. Jae-won blocks his path. She demands the truth. And the episode ends there. Don't forget to like, Comment, share with friends, and subscribe to the channel. I will be back with the rest of the story soon.